All right, so we still have people joining, but we will begin in the interest of time. Welcome. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. I am Christian of Promethean Northern Europe, and with me is Jasper, my colleague from the Benelux. We're here today to take you. We're here to take you through the brand new whiteboard app on ActivPanel 9 and ActivPanel 9 Premium, which is Explain Everything. So just a few house rules before we begin. As you will note, your audio has been muted to prevent any background noise during the call. The recording and the slides and the resources will be available to you after the webinar, and not in the partner portal as it says, but you will receive a direct link through Teams. If you have any questions, please put them in the Q&A panel or use the chat. We will be monitoring the chat throughout the session. We will try, of course, our best to answer as many questions as we can. If for some reason there is something we're not able to answer during the call, we will get back to you after the session as soon as we have a response ready. Yep, and with that, hopefully you can all hear us. If not, please check your computer audio and your speakers. So today's agenda is quite packed. We're going to start just discussing this transition from the whiteboard into Explain Everything. And after that, we will be going through the basic functionalities of Explain Everything. We're also going to look at some of the new features or some of the advantages over what we could do with the old whiteboard, including advanced object editing, some of the features that you may or may not know from ActivInspire, and one of the key things for me in Explain Everything, the ability to now work with a wide array of different files and media and insert them directly into to Explain Everything. And with that, I'm actually going to stop sharing and let Jasper take over.
Then I need to start sharing, of course. So let me open up the window that I want to share. There we go. All went correctly. You can now see my panel, and I'm going to do a little test if everything is moving when I try to use it. Yes, well, perfect. Hi, good afternoon. My name is Jasper. Like Christian, I work for Promethean, predominantly in the Benelux area, but I sometimes support in Eastern Europe and the Nordics as well, although most of that is being covered by Christian most of the time. We do try to help each other a lot. And this is one of those examples where we team up and try to give you the best training possible. Well, in the last few months, I must say Christian has built up more experience with Explain Everything than I did, but I will do my utmost best to give you good information, a good demo. Why Explain Everything and why are we doing this session? Well, as you know, we have been relying on Promethean Whiteboard for quite some time as the go-to whiteboard app for our panels, coming from, I think it was the V5 area Christian, up until V7 and ActivPanel 9 for some time. It's still available on our OPSA, and don't worry, it's at the moment still available. But we are transitioning into Explain Everything. You probably have heard of the fact that we teamed up with Explain Everything. And in the meantime, people have been working very hard to get all the features you know and love from the Promethean Whiteboard app into the Explain Everything app. So a lot of the things we will be showing you today are quite similar, but there are some differences. And the main focus from Promethean is to give you that untethered experience of working with Promethean files and whiteboard solutions. Where before you had ActivInspire, you had Promethean Whiteboard, some of you remember ClassFlow, then Explain Everything came into the mix, and all those file types didn't work together. Now we have taken a major step in the, I would say, the right direction to create one ecosystem. There are still some things to work out, still things we are working on very hard in the background to make it like the perfect solution all across the platforms where it's available. But today we will be focusing on the panel app version. So where can you find this app? You will find it on the AP9 Essential, we say in our area, and the AP9 Premium. And you will find it in, when you open the menu and you open applications, you will find it in the applications menu. You will recognize it by the Explain Everything logo, which is the curly E, and that will open up the Explain Everything app. So far, I hope no surprises. If you open it up for the first time, it will also prompt you a window with giving the option to follow a tour in the software. I skipped it and I reopened the app, so it doesn't ask me again, but normally it would. Now, before diving into the features, I want to take a quick look at the object recognition that we're doing with Explain Everything, because we had this nice object recognition within Promethean Whiteboard and sometimes also in Microsoft Ink enabled programs. The majority of it is still the same, but some things are a little bit different. I'm using an AP9 Premium here, so we know the stylus, the black and white stylus with the eraser cap on the back. And when I use that on the panel, as the pen, of course, it's immediately recognized as a pencil to draw and write. Well, so that has stayed the same. And as you can see, I opened Explain Everything, and it automatically highlights this hand icon. In Whiteboard, it was the mouse arrow. It means it's now in object recognition mode. By the way, I'm going to move the toolbar to the right later on, but for now I'll focus on the object recognition. So grabbing the pen, and you can start writing on the whiteboard. Now, before that, in Promethean Whiteboard, you are used to by navigating through the infinite canvas by using your finger. If I now use my finger, it's meant as a way to select things. So I can drag a box around the objects I've just drawn, or I can, let me unselect it, single tap an object, and you can single select that. So it's no longer used to navigate or pan across that canvas. If you do want to pan across the canvas, you use two fingers, so like a peace sign. So if I place two fingers on the board, you will also see that mini map appearing in the upper right corner. And this way I can drag across the canvas and search for the objects I've written on the panel. Let me place it back. Two fingers also enables you to zoom in and zoom out on that canvas. So if I place two fingers and I drag it in and out, as you can see, also in the mini map, you can see the objects enlarging and shrinking. It's a way of adjusting the image size or view. So that's a bit different from previous. One finger is for selecting, two fingers is for navigating and for zooming in and zooming out. Then, of course, we have the palm recognition or the fist, so you can use it as an eraser. This is still the same. And the back side of the pen you can use as a tiny eraser. So let's zoom in a little bit so it will become more clear. I will use the back side of the pen, and as you can see, it's like a more precise eraser when drawing. So that was the first step, the object recognition. A lot of it is still the same. Me, myself, having worked with Promethean Whiteboard for so long, I sometimes forget I need to navigate with two fingers, but working with it on a daily basis, you will get very experienced soon. Okay, that was the first step, object recognition. And now I want to draw your focus to an icon in the upper left corner of the board. It's that home icon. We are all used when using Promethean Whiteboard that when you open it, you can jump in that white canvas, that blank canvas immediately. And although Explain Everything offers you that same experience, that it opens a blank canvas by default, by tapping that home button, you can have a different flow of starting your whiteboard project. So if I tap that, I have to discard the changes or save them. You get this new project selection process or option, if you like. Well, first option is blank canvas. We just saw that it's just a white infinite canvas. The second one is quite interesting, is templates. If I tap that, you'll see that that Explain Everything offers you a wide range of templates to start your lesson or your project with. Templates can be seasonal. You have this selection menu on the left side. There's also, if I tap the last one, the seasonal templates, you will see like Valentine's Day, a Christmas tree, withdrawing exercises, or if you go into Easter, Mother's Day, Father's Day, autumn template. Here's a word search exercise. Sometimes it's games, sometimes it's a template where you can fill something in, and sometimes it's just like, I'll take the autumn card here, that gives you that ambience of autumn with fallen leaves and a pumpkin. And of course, from that, you can still use the pen and write and draw in it, or as Christian will show you later, import media files into that. Going back, and I'll discard this one. I'm going back into templates because I want to show you, let's say, the planning templates. And then you have a calendar or a check-in template where you can have the students check in your lesson or in your day. You can do an analysis, like there's a SWOT analysis template. I quite like a daily planner over here. So if you want to plan the day with your students, and there are multiple of those, you can see the priorities for today. How's everybody's mood? Did we take enough breaks to take a drink? I can, of course, zoom in and zoom out. There we go. And we can say 10 o'clock. We'll have a fruit break. There you go. And you can fill this out, save it, and get it back later or to show it to the kids. But that's working from templates. Discard. The last one is start a project from a file. And a file meaning you could reopen an explain everything file. I will go over the saving and exporting process later. So you can reopen a file and continue your lesson from the last time or the last day, of course. But what is also very interesting is that you can open Promethean whiteboard files. So if you have created lessons in Promethean whiteboard that you love and use again and again, don't have to throw them away. You can use them in Explain Everything. So as you can see, I've come to the file explorer of my panel, and let me go into my Google Drive. And in Google Drive, I have a folder saying PWB lesson, which is lessons in Dutch. And I can, now let's continue with this brilliant lesson where I had 2 assignment sheets for the students. As you can see, it even takes over the standard background color that you know from Promethean whiteboard, that's slightly off-white. And the ink, which you see, well, let me tap an object here. So I have this, this was a picture that I got from screen capture before and put it in. As you can see, it's still a movable, resizable object. And if I want to erase the ink that was put there in previously in Promethean whiteboard, I can erase that, reuse it as I like. So while transitioning from one app to the other, we'll make sure that nothing gets lost in the way you like to work or what you'd like to save. Let me discard this one. And now I would like to go back to a blank canvas and start talking about the drawing tools. First, I explained I want to move this toolbar to the right because from a presenting position, it makes more sense that it's on that side. Otherwise, I'm constantly turning my back to you guys, and I don't want to do that. So by achieving that, we tap this 3-dot menu on the top of the toolbar, as we call it, the kebab menu. And we go into settings. And there, as one of the first options you see beneath display toolbar alignment, and it's now aligned to the left. If I align it to the right, it will move to the right. And when you work in a Promethean profile, it will remember that setting. And the next time you log into your profile and start Explain Everything, it will be aligned to the right, which is an improvement as well from the Promethean whiteboard app. Okay, now I've shown you, before moving to the next drawing tool, let me draw a couple of rectangles. There we go. Please don't criticize my drawing skills. And let's draw a little circle in the middle. Now, what if I want to select that? Not erase that, but select that. There we go. But I didn't want to select the circle in the middle. Now, there's a way of doing that. Let me untap that. If I tap the hand icon again, you will see a small plus appearing in that hand icon. This means I now enabled multiple select. So let me select by tapping the first square, tapping the second square, tapping the third square, and the fourth square. And now if I drag that to the side, you will see I have not selected the circle, but just the objects I needed to select. So that offers you multiple selection. Okay, now let's scroll page up and go to a blank spot and talk about the pencil options here in your toolbar. By tapping that, just like in Promethean whiteboard, I have essentially told the panel I want to start drawing with my hands as well. So now I can also use my fingers as drawing tools and have this multiple touch processing. So you can have multiple kids coming or students coming to the panel and have them drawing simultaneously with their fingers. That's one step. Then when you hopefully stays, you will see that small dot on the top of the sub menu of the pen. If I tap that, I can change the width of the line. So let me go to a thicker line. And now when I start drawing, you will see it's using a thicker line. Pull up a bit. Tap it again. Now beneath, let me put it back before I forget. Yes, beneath that, you have the pencil type more or less. By default, it opens as a ballpoint pen with one single line. And if I tap the second one, you get more of a pencil experience. You can even choose which B type of the pencil you want to have. So let me select 6B, quite a hard color. Now to start drawing, as you can see, it gives you this more of a pencil experience while writing and drawing, which adds to the color of your board. Set it back to the pencil mode. There we go. Now, at the bottom, you see this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pre-selected colors in your pen menu. I've now selected black. I can select, of course, red, blue, green, yellow. But if I tap that same color again, you'll get another subtext menu offering you to change that color in the menu. So you can select the color from this palette, or you can create your own custom color palette. It's a giveaway in the menu already. So let me tap that plus. You'll get this color selection, even have the dropper or the pipet to select a color from a picture to get the exact color matching the picture you're using or the colors that you're using. Let me drag it, something here, something bluish. I'll say done, and you'll see that pencil immediately switching to the blue color I selected. Now, people that might have been, let me draw two angles here, and if I now press the menu, it should point to what I want to show you. Yeah, a little bit, it's behind it. You see the first tab is showing border. The other tab is showing fill, meaning that if I, with my very poor drawing skills, draw this rectangle or circle and I want to have it filled afterwards, there is a simple button to do that. So I can have the border color is this blue I just selected, but I can also change the fill color after I want to fill that object. And let me say I want to fill it with a green color because it contrasts so nicely. You can see the background of the pen also changing in the menu. So it's a blue border with a green filling. Now, how does that work? Let me draw that circle. Here we go. And now beneath the pen function, there is this little bucket with a drop falling out in the menu. And I'll tap that and you'll, well, after closing the menu, it sometimes doesn't fully grasp the shape. It tries to combine those two. But if you have your only created shape, you can have it fill with that color. Now let me try that again. I'll use red with the light gray. Here we go. I draw this square. I press the fill button. You'll see it is now filled with a lightly transparent gray. I hope that comes across online because the contrast settings are pretty low in Teams. So that is the pen settings, the width of the pen type, the pen color, and the fill color you're using for objects you have drawn. That back there, here we go. Beneath that, we see the marker, which gives, of course, similar settings. You have the marker colors, you have the width of the marker line. Let's set it more extra thick, and I want a green marker, and then I can start marking. Oh, I selected the wrong one. Here we go. I can select. You have this transparent color to highlight text or objects you want to highlight in your assignment. So basically, but those were the basic drawing tools. A lot of similarities with Promethean whiteboard, some differences, some extra options. Any questions? I'm sure you'll put them in the chat. Discard it and get a fresh one. Okay, so we talked about the pencil, we talked about the marker. Let's have a look at the option beneath the marker, which is showing the math tools. You probably already know the math tools from Promethean Whiteboard. Well, they're in here as well. And if I tap the top one, we'll have a ruler. Of course, you can move it around, you can resize it, you can turn it. And what I think is a great improvement from the last version, putting it back level, 0 degrees, is way easier than it was in Promethean Whiteboard. But you hopefully will be able to experience that for yourself. Also, when I put the pen nearby the ruler or any math tool, you will see it stick to it, indicating it with a small dotted circle around your pen, and you can draw a line alongside the ruler. Next to the ruler, we have the triangle. Also, this is showing the angle of degrees you have tilted your triangle in. You can, of course, resize it, scale it up, and use it to measure out stuff or draw. And then as last option, we have the protractor, but we can also put it in a full circle, great circle, back to half. And you can use it to draw alongside it, set a line. Here we go, filled line, you name it, or just the outside. Here we go, and then close it. You can see, okay, you can draw alongside that. Great. And the tools are much easier to navigate, to resize and put into correct position. I recognize in Promethean Whiteboard, it could be quite tricky sometimes to get it in the exact right position. Okay, then we have the eraser. It speaks for itself, more or less. You can still erase, and I think the majority of people will use the palm to erase, or the backside of the pen, or with the premium, the provided block eraser. But if you want to set it in erasing mode, you can have even set it to only erasing drawings and erasing pictures as well. Those are just 2 options beneath that. And then, last but not least, close that. Here. We have the filling bucket. So let me draw a shape. Close it. And well, beautiful roof. As I said, some people are better in drawing than I am. And I want a red roof. I tap the bucket, I tap the color, and I tap the object I want to fill. And I want a yellow brick house. And you can fill the object with the bucket. And if, of course, I tap next to the object, it will fill the whole background. But also gives you a mention, okay, do you want to adjust the background in this way, or open the background editor? And from there, you can choose multiple backgrounds, but we'll dive into that a little bit later. New one. Okay. And then we got shapes. By the way, with the marker and the bucket, of course, when you tap the color for the second time, you get this custom color palette option to change the color in the color you want to use as well. I'm going to turn on the light here a little bit because we're expecting some lightning and thunder in the background. So hopefully we'll stay online. The shapes tool. I accidentally now filled the background. Okay, the shapes tool. The top option is the shape form that is now pre-selected. You can see with the purple border, there's a square selected, and with the purple border around the green border is the color that we've selected. Now, if I tap the top one, you can say I can choose from other shapes I want to use as well. This is a much anticipated feature from Promethean Whiteboard, where it was quite tricky to put in an easy shape or a couple of blocks. Now, let's use the arrow, and let's go for a black arrow. There we go. Now selected black. And again, I can also, by tapping this again, choose the fill color for that shape. So it's the border color and the fill color as well. Now I selected the arrow, and with my finger, I easily draw that arrow and place it where I want. So If I now want to draw an arrow again, I do need to go into the Shapes menu and select this again. And now I can draw another arrow, because if I don't do that, it will think I will try to select something. But this is something you will get used to quite often. And the other way is also not that easy if you want to continue writing or something, that you will only be drawing arrows or shapes. By tapping an object, I can still rearrange it, resize it. There you go. I can move it around. And Christian will talk about more about the options that show up in this menu, because it will pop up in all kinds of multimedia items showing in Explain Everything. And then beneath, just take a look at the shapes. If you look at that, you will see triangles, quadrangles, stars, arrows, circles, the most basic shapes. And then we have the text box option beneath that, and I can tap anywhere on the screen and it will create a text box. Well, also the keyboard will pop up and it will give me the option to type something in there. Hi. But with the Google keyboard, we have demonstrated in previous calls that you can also enable handwriting recognition. So if that's important for your customer, instead of the letters there, you can change it to a handwriting recognition keyboard where you can write, and typed out letters will appear in there. And you can also use the microphone option when you have an AP9 Premium or an AP9 with a microphone or webcam attached to it. So let me use that one. And the language it is set to is the language it recognizes when using that microphone. So it's now set to English. Welcome everybody to this webinar. There you go. And if you're a language teacher, that could also be a very nice way of testing the pronunciation of your students by saying, okay, I put it into French or German or English, and now you pronounce the word in a correct way, and let's see if it recognizes your speech. And again, you can press the edit button, edit the text, and there's multiple things you can do in the context menu of that text. Now, the last one here in the toolbar is the pointer option. You tap that, you get the selection of pointers you can choose from. Let me choose the blue pointer here. What it now does is, let's give an example. You have a couple of answers sitting on the board. You shout out a sum or an assignment, and you want kids come to the board and point out the answers you would like them to give or select. Now these, you don't want them to change or move your canvas around or by accident erase stuff. So by now tapping the board, and I keeping my finger on there, you will see an arrow appear about 3-4 centimeters above my index finger. So I'm not blocking it with my hand, but I can use it to point out stuff on the whiteboard whilst not disturbing it. I can even have multiple people doing that. So now I'm touching it with 2 hands, and you can see I can have 2 arrows moving around on the canvas. Speaking of that, the canvas, yes. So depending on who you speak to, there are different views on what a whiteboard should be. Our previous view always was it should be an infinite canvas that you can just continue working and scrolling, and you're not limited to the size of the whiteboard, more or less. Whilst others would say, well, you gotta have multiple pages and you can work in a clean page every time. And we just said, okay, we'll combine the two. So you now got infinite canvas pages to keep it really simple. Down here, you will see this small navigation icon. By the way, it's down on the left corner because I moved the toolbar to the right side. If the toolbar moves to the left side, that page navigation tool would be in the down right corner, the opposite to what it's now. So if I press that plus, we'll see the navigation bar expanding, and now in page 2 of 2, and I can tap another plus, and now I'm in page 3 of 3. If I tap the pages, preview will fold out, and I of course can navigate back to page 1 by a single tap, not forcing me to flip through every page. If I got multiple pages set up during the day, I can easily go back to my first page where I might have put my template with my daily planner like we started with. So it's an easy way of building your file during the day and switch back to topics whenever you like. Now, when I tap this, you will see next to the plus icon in this unfolded menu, you will see the background editor. That's one way of approaching it. You can also approach it from the keypad menu. You will see there the background, edit background option in the, let me use it from there. And this gives me the opportunity to change the background of my EE whiteboard. Well, I got a wide selection of colors I can choose from. Of course, I can use the bucket as well. I can even use the, well, in the upper left corner, you will see the circle with a dot in it. I'll tap that. You can go for a custom color. So there's something in there for everybody, I would say. Beneath the colors, you'll see a row of line selections you can choose from. If I go to the last one, you will have a German house for writing lessons. I can tap the music for the music bars for giving music lessons. I can have a grid. I can have vertical lines. I can have horizontal lines or open ones. Well, I can choose from that as well. I can change that pattern color as well. So if I want to work with red lines, here we go, we're using red lines. I think the possibilities are endless. Now I press done, you will see that that background has changed to that color. And again, if I zoom in or zoom out, you will see the line size adjusting to the size I wanted to have. So I can do some differentiation with kids if some have some trouble writing more precise when you're practicing the letters. Christian, I need to take a look at my cheat sheet because I don't know if I missed any of my tasks. Oh. Here we go. I did starting from templates, write, annotate, erase, additional tools. Oh, save and export, the last bit, and then I will hand over the baton to Christian. Okay, well, save and exporting. By tapping the keypad menu, you will have a couple of options. You'll first have the save option. Well, I think a lot of this is really recognizable. Something to well, to be focused on, or to make you aware of that. You can change the name, of course, of the file of how you want to store it, but the file extension is .explain. And this is the same across the board where Explain Everything is installed or used. So if you are working on the web version of Explain Everything and you download the file, this will be an .explain file as well. If you download that file to your, let's say to your Google Drive or your OneDrive, you can then open it on the panel. Now, it's not the perfect infrastructure for file sharing yet, but do know that files created on the panel can be opened in the web version and vice versa. Some functionalities will not be 100% be the same, but in the basis, these file types are already corresponding with the app on different platforms. Okay, storing it, of course, you can change the name, you can store it in your Google Drive, and then store it in or OneDrive or your USB key, or using ActivSync to store it on your laptop directly. Hopefully you are aware of the ways we offer you to store our files. That's one option. Now I'm going to close that quick. The other option is to export. And if I want to export, I got two options as a PDF. Of course, very easy if you want to share the whiteboard with parents, with students who don't have access to Explain Everything, or you just want to send it to your computer and then print it, then the PDF option, of course, is an excellent option. And you can export it as an image, so you can upload it to Instagram or put it in a Word document, what you like. Questions, Christian? Am I still here?
Yeah, so a couple of questions, which I've answered in the chat, but just to give you the note, when can we expect the Compass tool? So there's no set date yet, but this is still on the to-do list for the programmers to add the popular compass tool from ActivInspire. So it is coming a little later.
And one of the tools that we see from ActivInspire, we'll see more things migrating from ActivInspire as well to explain everything, of course. So a lot more is coming in the coming months, years, even. Yeah.
And a second question regarding the shapes tool, we had a question about 3D shapes. And as it is right now, you will find some of these 3D shapes within the clip art library, which I'll show you momentarily. But we're also looking at adding customized 3D shape tools as well. And one popped in from Janice just now. Does YouTube video search work now? Well, Janice, the YouTube video search has actually always worked. The issue was that there was a limit on the number of daily searches, which is due to a setting in our backend. That has now been bumped up to a much higher number, so you should be able to do searches from YouTube. Be aware, though, that when you do search from YouTube, the very first time you do it and you run Explain Everything, you get a prompt that asks if you want to allow these searches like a security message. And if you do not respond with a yes to that prompt, then you won't be able to search YouTube. It should be working now. Otherwise, I would have to take this separately with you, and we can look at if there's something in the network you're using that is preventing the use of the server. Possibly could be network settings. All right.
Okay, with that, I'll stop sharing and hand it over to you, Christian.
All right, and I will take over and start sharing, put my screen through. There we go. All right, so one of my favorite things about this new whiteboard app is all the things we can do with media and different kinds of files and just easily add in. So let's try to build something here from scratch. Let's start by trying to build a scene from a monster movie. So I'm going to start by actually changing the background. Let's go edit that, maybe like a deep blue because it's nighttime, like so. And let's dive in and find some objects. So I'm going to go up actually to the Insert Media button up here. And right there, we'll see the option for clip art. So Explain Everything comes with hundreds of high quality images that you can use in your lessons. Just click them to insert, and you have all these different categories down here. So, and one of them, of course, being 3D shapes. So we can easily do things like cones, spheres, half spheres, cubes, and simply insert those. And of course, if we need to add stuff on top of that, then we can start talking about how this would be the height, and then we would have A and we would have B if we start doing our calculations. And as with the previous whiteboard, you'll see that annotations will stick to image objects when we draw on them. So let's go to that clip art library now, and let's find some interesting things. Let's start with a building. So let's get a skyscraper going here. Put that in there. Resize it, of course, using two hands, or we can just click it to highlight it, as Jasper showed, or drag around it. So you will notice when we drag around an object, we get all these little contextual options that you would also have in ActivInspire. So essentially, we have 4 different buttons. We have one here that's called Layers. We have Edit, we have Locking, and then we have Actions. In this case, I'm actually going to take the skyscraper and I'm going to lock it in place. So we'll go to the lock, and I'll lock it firmly in place. You'll notice there's a bunch of options for locking here. I can lock the rotation. I could also lock it so it will only move on one plane. So lock vertical, which means I can no longer move it up and down, but I can sort of move it across the board here if I need to. So very useful in restricting specific kinds of actions. So let's lock that in place. And let's find something else. We're going to go in and we're going to go to animals, and we're going to see if we can find King Kong. There we go. Bring him in. There he is. Put him there. And I remember the movie correctly, King Kong also had a certain attempted relationship with a woman. So let's find a girl and put her in there. There she is. Put her over here, and we'll move her up here. And we'll try to make it look as if he's holding on to her. So of course, we need to move her backwards. So one of the cool features from ActivInspire that's now here is the ability to work with different layers in the image. So we can move objects from the front to the back and vice versa. So I'm going to go to the Layers button, and I'm going to just send backward, or actually send her all the way back. And it now looks kind of as if she's sitting in the fists there of King Kong. And I'm going to group them, which I can do using what Jasper showed with the hand select tool, and simply click both objects here and do the grouping. Or I can just drag around them to do that group. There we go. And again, that would be in the layers button, group. So they will now move as one object. And here's a little hit tip. You can unlock these groups either by clicking them, of course, and going back into the layers button and pressing ungroup. But you can also do this little shortcut of just clicking 3 times on the group. So if I click this 3 times, then you'll actually see I ungrouped it here. So some different little neat things there. And we can put King Kong up here so he's sitting on top of the building. There we go. Now, let's add a couple of stars as well. So let's just draw some stars in here. Let's mark that. You'll notice the color is off here. And again, the menu that we get when we work with objects up here is contextual. So you'll see those quick shortcuts there right now, which will allow me to change the fill color and the outline color. Whereas if I click the clip art object, you'll see some different options up here. Right. So there's a star, and I'm going to need a second star, so we can actually go to the actions menu right there, and you'll see the duplicate option. So we can create another copy of this, put that somewhere on the board, maybe make it a little smaller, and let's group these like so. And actually, we're going to lock these, and we're just going to lock the size of these because we don't want them to be resized. So now we can move them, we can rotate them, but we cannot change the size of the objects. There we go. Now, of course, there's a ton of things in the clip art library that are quite useful, but you won't find everything in here. So you can also quite easily go and do searches for Google images or even YouTube videos. So let's go to Google and let's see if we can find a version of Godzilla. And I'm going to go for a PNG file to see if we can get one without a background. Let's see if we can find one that's good. We have something here. Boom, boom. There we go. I'll go with that one. And there's Godzilla. And actually, he's facing the wrong way, so we'll highlight him. And again, we can go into, let's go into the flash up here, and we'll go flip. And we can move him around, put him where he needs to be, causing rampage down here somewhere. And a little bit more scenery. Let's go to the clip art library, and let's just go to space and add the moon up here nice and bright. Put that somewhere over there. And maybe also a little spaceman. There we go. So quite quickly, as you can see, we can set the scene for different kinds of things and create the outline for a story or a setting for the lessons we want to do. Now, there's so much we can do with these objects. As you can see, when we highlight them, we get these options with the flip, the grouping, the layering, all of these things, duplicate. You can even add objects as clip art. So if I'd created a custom object, maybe I design my own stars here. You'll see I can go in, I can highlight those, and I can say add as clip art down here. Now, at the moment, if you do so, it will be stored locally on the panel, but eventually part of what we're doing right now is integrating that whole experience with what we call the explain drive, so that when you log on to your Promethean account, very much like Timer and Spinner, in the future, your explain files will follow you around on your ActivPanel 9s. So we'll just delete that one for now. There are a couple of more interesting things we can do with actions, and this is the beginning of what we may recall from ActivInspire in terms of causing or creating dynamic lesson content. We can add some movement to the board. So one of the things, if we go into the actions here, is the ability to set auto rotation. And you'll see I can now just drag this little circle out here, and I can create movement on the board and have the object rotate. We can even go in and we can set the speed or the direction. So if I go slower and I let go, that's going to be the speed that we'll be rotating with here. And we could put the spaceman in orbit as well. Let's do another rotation here. And now instead, I'm actually going to grab the lower handle here and I'm going to move the center right into the middle here, and we will kind of create the effect of the spaceman dancing around or running around the moon here if we needed to. So a bunch of different options for creating dynamic content and some movement in the slides, making them interesting. And just the whole fact that we can drag around objects, easily delete, move stuff around is very, very useful. Of course, there is a ton of other ways you can work with media. If we go to the Insert Media button again, so you will see sticky notes, allowing us to create those very popular sticky notes for our brainstorming diagrams. And as Jasper pointed out already, we can combine this using handwriting if we want to. So maybe we'll add today, like so. And we can easily go in as well, highlight it, use our text tools at the bottom to change the size. Let's go even larger. Let's go to the bigger format here, and we'll change the font as well. There we go. And we can even add ink on these as well. And again, if we drag around it, you'll see that contextual menu, so we can quickly go in and change the writing color, and we can change the sticky note color as well if we need to, and resize these and drag around. So besides from sticky notes, Google Images, of course, YouTube search, we can insert videos. So let's see if we can find something here. Let's stick with the Godzilla. There's a short clip here. Let's go to that one. And you'll immediately see the browser being inserted. And we will need to just activate the browser shortly. And again, my internet might be a little bit packed now with the webinar. There it is. So there's a YouTube video running. And of course, we can go full screen of that as well. Just accept these because it's first time. So you'll see I can jump into full screen. You double tapped it there, so we actually skip the full screen. There you go. Oh. There we go. There we go. Now, in a very similar fashion to working with YouTube videos, we can actually embed a web browser on the page. But before I do so, I'm going to the Kebab menu just to show you one very useful setting under editing at the very bottom, because we can actually have Explain Everything use the full desktop mode for the browser. This is very similar to what we have on the AP9 already. It basically means that when you load a website, you're not going to get the reduced tablet version of the website. You're getting the full same experience as if you were working in your desktop browser on your PC, essentially. And that allows us to use things like progressive web apps. So for example, as an ex-math teacher, one of my favorite apps of all time is, of course, GeoGebra. So let's go there in a window. And let's start the calculator. And we're now running GeoGebra directly in a window within Explain Everything. And this is part of the reason we call it Explain Everything, because literally you have this one-stop platform that encompasses the ability to incorporate all your videos, your images, your text, your files, even as you'll see shortly, and even websites like this. So you don't really have to leave the interface, which makes it much easier to get fluid working. Let's see if we can do some shapes here, or maybe we'll do a polygon. Let's see, what should we do? We will create some Actually, let's go up to that one. And we will just create some sliders here. Put a slider there, put a slider there, put a slider there. I'll just move these around just to organize things a little bit. And we can move the canvas around, of course, as well. So we'll just go to move this a little bit. And now let's input some algebra. So let's put in an expression here, and we'll say A, actually, let's say Y equals, boom, we got that. A, and let's go x to the second plus bx plus c. And you actually already see that line being drawn up there. So now we have a piece of dynamic math where we can start investigating what happens when we change the values of A, B, and C. And while we're doing that, we can move out here and we can start taking notes. So when A is above 0, this is the way the LEDs will be turning, and we can go back in, go in and change this. So if it's below 0, what happens then? Go back out. So it offers us this opportunity to work with dynamic content and add our notes again within the same platform without having to split the screen, having Chromium running on one side and the whiteboard on the other. Everything just goes into the same platform. Very, very powerful. Oh, there we go. Right. So there are a couple of other options up here, and one of the most prominent ones for me is the ability to use external sources as well. So I have a web camera up here, and you'll see I can easily just press new video, and it's going to add that web camera feed. So you actually get my full messy desktop there with all the gadgets. Now, this is very powerful for the classroom, especially for remote teaching and remote lessons. So we can put this to one side. And again, we could combine this with our lesson recorder, which comes standard in AP9. And all of a sudden now, in addition to recording the lesson, we can actually have a view of the students in the classroom at the same time, or we could move the camera to see the teacher as we're explaining in front of the board. Of course, it doesn't have to be a web camera. This could be a document camera as well. Let's go to new picture and say I had some analog content I wanted to bring into the board, and we could take something under that web camera or document camera, and we could take that image, and we could quite easily bring that image onto our board and create a digitized version of analog content, insert it like so. And finally, perhaps the most important one for me is the ability to insert photos, videos, or files. So you'll notice right now I have my laptop connected, so I could go through ActivSync if I had content sitting in that folder I specified on my laptop, or I could use my Google Drive or my OneDrive if I have them hooked up. So let's go in and see what we can find. And you have the ability to import normal Office documents like Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and PDF files as well. So let's try some PDF content. I have something here about ancient Egypt, some code language, hieroglyphs. And what you will see is actually this document has 26 pages. Now, currently there's a limit of 25, so I will have to select up here and deselect. You'll see I cannot have the last page included out here. Maybe I only needed 2 pages, in which case I would just highlight those pages I wanted. But let's stick with the 25. The real powerful part, though, is the number of ways you can insert these on the canvas. So if I want a PowerPoint style presentation, I could go separate slides, and each of these pages would go on their own canvas page in the presentation. You could also go instead, and you could go stacked, which means we would get them like cue cards, and you can just move them away to reveal the next one underneath. Or we can put them in a line or in a row. Or in this case, I actually really like the grid view, so I'm going to stick with that. I'm going to go insert, and it's chewing on that. Right. So I'm going to stop for a moment to check if we have any questions we need to address.
Yeah, there's one question, Christian, regarding the address bar, and when you import a browser into can you hide the address bar? I didn't see an option for it.
No, not currently, not currently. But we do have requests to go sort of like a full screen mode within the browser window to just get the content. So it is an enhancement request.
Yeah, but what Pavel, and I will take that to the request team as well. It will look cleaner without the address bar. I can see that, but it also needs to be something that will toggle easily if you want to go further with browsing. So we'll bring it back to the product team.
Yeah.
And that's it for the moment.
All right. So let's get back in here. These are my 25 pages from the PDF, and I'll just ungroup them, do the triple click here to be able to highlight them manually. And I see quite a lot of Czech people here, so I will show you the limits of my knowledge of Czech is a very few words. One of them, of course, being, oh, let's ungroup that. Perhaps the most important word you need to learn if you ever go to Czech. There we go. So we can build these. We're building new words with PDF pages, essentially, that we can move around, group, and work with. And just to show you, these are actually PDFs. When we zoom in, you can see these are the high quality PDFs. They'll just scale and you'll get that nice crisp resolution still. And again, we can even put ink on top. So if we're working with these cards, we can find some words that start with the same thing. In this case up here, we have a lion. So let's put that on there. And of course, these will stick on the individual cards when we move them around, just like we've been used to working in the Promethean whiteboard app, right? Yeah, I can tell you, I saw that question there. It's from Jasper. It's 27 degrees here at the office, so I could do with a bit of Pivo later. Yeah, absolutely. Right. So that essentially sums up all the options you have for working with media and object editing within Explain Everything. And as Jasper and I said earlier, we are constantly working to bring more features into Explain Everything. We've developed the backend technology to the point where we can actually update Explain Everything without having to update the full firmware, which means you'll see Explain Everything grow with new features month by month in the coming times. Any questions?
I don't see new questions in the chat. I did see somebody immediately leaving as soon as you started talking about beer. So I guess people are getting thirsty in the meantime.
Yeah, we are also coming up to that point. So if there are no more questions, we'll give you back a few minutes of your time. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. And again, any other questions that we didn't get to address, you do know where to find us. Just reach out to Peter Wood or Robert Hoplock or directly to Jasper or myself. Thank you. Have a nice evening.
Yes, thank you.